And welcome back. We're being joined now by our State House insiders tonight. Dave Wilson, our Republican strategist. Antoine Seawright, our Democratic strategist. Primary voting turnout today, dismal once again, guys. Somewhere around 10-15% in South Carolina.
You know, I expected that level of turnout because that's on par with what we've seen before in primaries. The reason I was somewhat cautiously optimistic about an increase in turnout because we are in a presidential year. On the Republican side, we saw a surge in their turnout because they had an open primary on the presidential side. I think that is a factor to consider. On the Democratic side, we saw low turnout. We did not have a contested presidential primary. At the end of the day, we're now entering into runoff season, and that's going to determine how we put in a final button or final bow on the South Carolina primary.
I mean, think about it, folks from home. As you think right now, you're sitting at your house right now, think about the houses that are around you. You voted and nobody else around you did. That's the type of voter turnout that we're talking about. So decisions are made by those who show up. And so if you showed up today, thanks. If you didn't, you've got one more chance in some areas because we are going to have runoff races. And those races are going to really be the determining factor of who ends up in the general election in November.
A lot of people are experiencing voter fatigue. Voter frustration, voter anger, and in some cases voter confusion. I think that is dictated by the percentage of voters who showed up to turn out. Prayerfully, let's hope that's not an indication of what November looks like for either party.
And that leads me into my next question. Dave, how do we increase voter turnout for November?
It really boils down to good contested races. If you've got somebody who's going to be out there working really hard, and you have that kind of contest that's going on, it energizes voters to turn out, or you're going to have something that's happening within society or culture that really gets people to show up and do something. And so that's one of those factors that candidates and folks who work with candidates are always looking for. What's it going to take to get somebody off their butts and into the ballot box?
But I think also we have to remind folks that they do have this right to show up and participate, and that's how you express yourself. For the first time in our state's history, we had early voting by way of a bipartisan legislation. We had less than 200,000 people take advantage of that. And so there's really no excuse of why people did not participate other than they just chose not to.
Right. And so that's a place where you are now in the position right now to vote in the runoff elections. If you've got a runoff in your particular area, then you have an opportunity to be voting, early voting now. So, go to scvotes.org, see if you're in a race that would be, or an area that would have a contested race, and show up to vote.
All right, Dave, Antoine, as always, guys, thank you so much.
Thanks, JR.
And if you'd like more details on today's primary, simply go to our website. That's WLTX.com.